started.
Sam, can you unmute Butch?
Okay, say something.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good
Hello.
afternoon.
Okay,
We are
Go ahead.
live on Facebook and on Zoom. Sorry, everyone who's attending. We had some technical difficulties, but I think we're ready to get started. Welcome to our hosts and our panelists. My name is Melissa Buffalo. I am the Interim Chief Executive with the American Indian Cancer Foundation. I'm an enrolled member of the Meskwaki Nation in Iowa. I'm also Dakota from the Crow Creek and Lower Bill Sioux tribes. I'm a mom of two, and I'm also a family member who has been impacted by cancer. And I think we'll all talk about that here at the end. But again, I just want to welcome everyone as June starts. The American Indian Cancer Foundation is excited to be celebrating National Cancer Survivor Month. Here at AICAF, we are celebrating Indigenous life. AICAF's mission is to address the needs of our survivors, caregivers, and their families. We aim to honor and uplift the lives of our relatives who were and are impacted by a cancer diagnosis. Today, we are celebrating our relatives who are cancer survivors across Indian country. We acknowledge the wonderful strength, wisdom, love, and life that goes into being a survivor. We know our journeys include various challenges as Indigenous people, including too many generational wounds. Our people, our relatives, and our survivors are resilient. We are so thankful and excited for your presence and the presence of those beautiful lives who've passed. Just a few logistical items to address before I allow our research manager, Wyatt, to introduce himself and all of our guests joining us on Zoom. We will be recording this event today. The recording on Facebook will be available as well, and we'll post to our YouTube channel. Again, Wyatt and I are joining you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Wyatt.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Melissa mentioned, my name is Wyatt Pickner. I am Hunkpati Dakota, originally from Crow Creek, South Dakota, on my dad's side of the family, and the Rosebud Sioux tribe on my mom's side of the family. And excited to be here and help facilitate this webinar and session. Looking for where my dad's go.
One quick thing, we want, feel free to put your questions and comments in the chat. We'll also be checking those as along we go because this is a celebration. We know the party may go over and want to let people know we may be ending our time together a little bit after 6.
There we go. So let's see here. Yeah, so if you could let us all, right here, right?
Yes.
We'd love for you all to let us know who you are, if you could share your names, your tribal affiliation, and the ancestral lands on which you're joining us from. And we'd like to also hear from our panelists. If we could start with Nicole.
Hello, good afternoon. Nicole Hallingstad is my English name. I am Tlingit Raven of the Sea Pigeon Clan. It is wonderful to be with you here today. I am fortunate enough to be on AICAF's fantastic board of directors, supporting its amazing staff, but I am also myself a 2-time cancer survivor of breast cancer and more recently of ovarian cancer. So of course I am filled with gratitude. It's a blessing to be here with you today and I look forward to our conversation. I am coming to you, zooming in from Alaska, from the lands of the Dena'ina people here outside of Anchorage.
Welcome, Nicole. John Nelson.
Hi, can you hear me? Good. Hi, my name is John Nelson, board member, fairly new board member with AICAF. Glad to be on the board. Thank you. I'm originally from New Mexico. Navajo tribe is my tribal affiliation. I now live and reside in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am a colon cancer survivor. Colon cancer runs pretty heavily in my family. So I'm just glad to be here to join you all today. Thank you.
And Roy, it's so good to see you again. Welcome. Please feel free to introduce yourself.
Okay, hello, bonjour, and Noah. Chadik skiri puhukstatat, retu staka. My name is Roy Taylor, and I'm joining you from Minnesota, Dakota, and Anishinaabe territory. I live and reside here, and I am Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma. I've been up here in Minnesota. I say up, but I've been here in Minnesota several decades now. I was born, though, and raised in the old Indian Territory, Oklahoma, where some of my relatives still reside. And technically, when I was talking with Misha and Melissa, that they were on a radio program that I host here in the Twin Cities every week, focusing on Indigenous and Native affairs. And I was telling them that my experience, I did not actually get receive a diagnosis on the American Cancer Society's scope. What is it? Stages, I guess, the stage 0 to 4. But I do have a cautionary tale to tell you about, because I have had some surgery related to my colon because of not only polyps, but a growth known as an adenoma, which grew into my appendix. So I can tell you more about that later. And particularly because Native males, they don't like to be probed, whether it's aliens or physicians or specialists. So I'm here to kind of dispel all of those concerns that Indian men have about undertaking colonoscopies and the positive results that can occur from that.
And then last up, we'll have Butch Felix, who's from the Rosebud Sioux tribe, introduce himself. And then Butch, after that, if you would like to do our opening prayer.
That's it. Means yes, that's good. My name is Butch Felix. I've had that name all my life since I was 2 years old. It was given to me by my dad, called me a little butcher. And my uncle, whose father was the butcher, one of the first butchers on our reservation, just started calling me Butch after that. So I've been butcher all my life. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here, because a very important person in my life, one that raised me from about 1.5-year-old until I started school when I was almost 7 years old, is my grandmother. And she passed away in 1966 of bone cancer. Then I have family members. I have a brother, 2 sisters, and even my wife were a cancer victim. My wife is a survivor. My brother, sisters were victims of cancer. So cancer has cut a notch in my life quite a bit. So I really appreciate the honor and the privilege to do this for cancer victims and survivors, especially the survivors, to encourage them to look forward, look up and listen to all their traditional medicine, traditional teachings, as well as the modern day. You know, it's like the followings of our ancestors said, there's a new world coming. Learn to put the good of the old world with the good of the new world and make a life for yourself. And so that goes with medicine too. So we remember those things. So again, anyway, I'm really glad to be here. I'm very nervous because I can't see you guys smiling, all of you, but I appreciate Roy, what he said about the violation of an Indigenous man's body. That's how I felt when I was having open heart surgery. They were going to do it immediately. And I said, no, give me at least 1 day. I need to communicate to my family, let them know what's going to happen, because in our Indigenous common people's way, once our body is violated, then a part of us leaves our system, our physical being, a part of our spirit starts leaving us. So that's really was my concern, and the doctors let me out for 24 hours to do what I had to do. And then I went back in, and then I finished my open heart surgery, and that was in 1999. And so I appreciate the traditional prayers and the modern medicine. Excuse me. But first of all, I always advocate when we say a prayer in indigenous ways, we ask our ancestors, their spirits, to come and gather around us to stand with us. So I always tell people and advise them, try not to record when you're praying because the spirits will shy away from you. And we need the presence of those spirits to be with us to strengthen our prayer that much more stronger because they are the ones that hear us. And the spirit of our grandfathers, our ancestors, they're the ones that make the prayer stronger and they go to where we wanted to and achieve what we are asking for in our prayers. So I want to excuse myself of that. So many people have heard me say that. So I'm going to pray on a recording. So I want to excuse myself from that. So I would just like to let you know that before I do the prayer. And I ask you all to pray with me, one heart, one mind, make us prayer that much stronger when we pray. God, our grandfathers, to the four directions, and the one that sees all up above, and the grandmother Earth, upon whom we walk each for the prayer. Okay, we stand humbly before you, your common people. We send our voices to you in faith. Naha wakana ke kia kahukuta hit. Na uchima kanisha takuyuha nis ya ichakuta na oyati ke wichakuta mopila. We thank you all for everything that comes to us in this life. Thank you for this day. Thank you for the time that you give us to do what we're doing. We send these words and we thank you for that and for the life that we have each and every day. Each day, hear this prayer for all that all the walks of life that we have of our common people. We all walk in faith in the path that you have chosen for us. We ask you to bless those that will be working in efforts to get this word out about cancer, the terrible disease that gone across the land, that's taken many victims and made many survivors to walk humbly and in a common way for all of us. Cancer has taken many people down all across the world, and we remember them when we offer this prayer. You are flying the Ogana Wicho Kujeshi, Gasotina, Gaskai, the Seta, Hena Wichayo still, Hena Wopas, you have many, and Oichaka, Wokstop, Wichak, and bless all those that are pursuing a cure for cancer, this terrible disease. Bless them, give them additional knowledge to what they are seeking, a cure for cancer for the people, so that our people can quit suffering from this terrible disease. Grandfather, God, the one, the great mystery, the one that sees all and makes all, and Uchimaka, Grandmother Earth, from whom everything grows, all resources All resources grow from grandmother earth. Even the medicines, the resources that can cure this disease. Bless them, those that seek amongst those corners so they find a cure for cancer. Tukashila wakataka, wakataka, ya dahut kutahitwana, uyawastepo. Grandfather, God, the creator of all, as you watch over us, we ask you to continue blessing us and continue to bless all these workers working to eradicate cancer in some way. Bless the medical field, bless the traditional healers, all those that have access to those natural medicines to put together a cure for this terrible disease that's taken so many of our family members. God, Nilhati, Ya Yonihake, Ushicha, Wowicha, like Ruhanoji. All like grandfather, God, the creator of all. We stand humbly before you. We stand humbly below you. You see all that happens to us. We ask you to hear our prayer in a common way, in a respectful way for the things that we ask for. We send our words and our thoughts to you with faith in our hearts. Each and every day, bless us in your own special way. Tukashila, Ushilapo, Tukashila, Ushilapo. Grandfather, God, creator of all, be kind to us. Be kind to us. Tukashila, Ushilapo, Lea Petukea, Akea, Usi Etia, Wache Umpia, oh, yo, oh, ay, Tukasela, Ampetukele, Wapia, Wichaki, O Wichaki, Yayo, Hetewa, Heteya, Wache, Ukia, Hello, ay, oh, she, oh, la, oh, she, oh, la, oh, she, oh, la, well, ya, hiya, 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 aho. Thank you for listening to me and praying with me. Wopilatak.
Thank you very much, Butch, for your opening us in a good way and doing that for us. And we wanted to start, by also asking if, there's any words of wisdom that you have to share with, our cancer survivors and our relatives. And just wanted to start with that question.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. I always like now when my grandmother passed away, I wasn't able to be with her at the last few moments. I was coming back from Norfolk, Virginia, where I was stationed in the United States Navy. And there was an airline strike going on, so I had to take a train back to Omaha, Nebraska, and then from there, a bus to Norfolk, Nebraska, and I had to hitchhike from there. And when I got home, she had gone into a coma already. And before she went in a coma, my mother said she was with her. She told my mother, there is a young man walking along the highway. He left a wizipra, she said, which is like a suitcase, someplace, and he's walking on the highway. So I told my mother that I left my ditty bag, my duffel bag. I left it at the bus depot to be shipped the next day and on the mail to home. So my grandmother, then she went into a coma, so she knew I was coming home. But since then, she fell and broke her hip, and she was with bone cancer, and it just spread all over. And in 1966, there wasn't much being done with cancer, but nowadays there is so much being done. My wife is a survivor. She had a tumor on her kidney, and they used lasers to freeze it. And she's still harassing me every day. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm happy for that. But others, my brother had a tumor that was going from his kidney and attached to his liver, I guess. And it took it at the end. And my sister had cancerous cysts on her intestines. So she had to have those cut out. And she spent the rest of her life on a liquid diet. They have to be fed to her through a tube. And so I'm familiar with the suffering that people go through. And the most serious cancers that we are, my brothers of the Vietnam War is Agent Orange. Brother-in-law that died from it, it just ripped up his lungs and it just took it. And I have friends that are in our Kit Box Society that died from Agent Orange cancer, their throat, their lungs. And so cancer is a very terrible disease. And at one time, once you heard the big C, cancer, everybody, our Indian people, our people used to always think, oh, that's the end. That's it. Oh, that's going to be the end of my life. But anymore, it's not the end. If you discover it soon enough, there are ways to deal with it. And that's what we need to inform to our people. Get your annual checkup, your 6-month checkup, whatever you have to do. Keep yourself on top of the situation, your health situation. If you can't catch it early enough, they can treat it. Maybe they can even cure it. I don't know, but get the message out to people that cancer is not the final word anymore. There's ways to treat it. And I appreciate and encourage all of you that are on here, the panel members. I'm sure you all have your own experiences you could share with others. And so I appreciate this opportunity, this honor, and you humbled me by asking me. And I was asked to do a song at the end even. And so I added up for you. And the song says, grandfather, be kind to us. Grandfather, be kind to us. Grandfather, be kind to the medical people, the healers, the traditional healers, medical people, and give them access to the right resources to address this disease. And that's basically what the context of the song was, just for you to use, and everyone that can see this, wherever they see it. Thank you. Be kind to yourself and always respectful to each another. So thank you.
Butch, thank you so much. I think we all felt every word you shared in your prayer and just now. And I feel like we could just end this webinar because you just said it all, but we are all here for a reason. So I want to, again, we'll welcome you back in a little bit, Butch. I'm excited to hear your song. And so kind of looking, at Johnny, at Roy, at Nicole, I will, let one of you start first, and just again wanted to hear a little bit about your cancer journey and anything you wanted to share with us. I think, Nicole, last time you and I had a talk, with Misha and some of our other survivors, such a learning experience, and with Dr. Brett Benally. So again, thinking of that conversation, Roy, I think what you've had to share with us is so important, in that importance of advocating and being, on time. So with that, maybe we'll start with Johnny, if you want to share a little bit about your journey and kind of where you are today.
Good job.
Oh, you're on mute, Johnny.
I knew I was going to do that. Sorry about that. My journey started out actually probably more on my family side with my mother. She had colon cancer when she was in her early 30s, survived that. And then my sister, my younger sister, she had colon cancer, stomach cancer, when she was about 32 years old. Following her experience, it was highly recommended because the doctor had thought maybe this is something to do with hereditary. So he wanted me to get a colonoscopy. Well, at that time, getting a colonoscopy before the age of 50 was not rare, but it wasn't common. And so was able to go ahead and get that done through my insurance at the time. I began to develop all kinds of intestinal or gastric type issues along with that. So there was obviously some concern, which led to a lot of testing, a lot of quite a few actually colonoscopies, endoscopies, and all of that, blood work, you name it. What my first colonoscopy revealed is I had a polyp, which just happened to be a blister style, not the traditional style as far as a mushroom shape that they talk about that can be snipped off. Mine had to be surgically removed. So I had a resect done. Following that, I went back for a follow-up. It was benign. So the recommendation at the time was that I need to do a follow-up colonoscopy 8 to 10 years, which I was not comfortable with for some reason. I just felt like I needed to do them sooner than that. Fortunately, I was able to actually do them every 2 to 3 years, which I did. When I left the New Mexico area to come to Nevada, I followed that same routine, and I went in for one of my routine, I'll call it, colonoscopies, which I was approaching my 3rd year from the previous one. That colonoscopy revealed I had stage 3 colon cancer, which really shocked me because I didn't have any symptoms whatsoever. The other thought is that my little knowledge about colon cancer was that typically it takes 8 to 10 years for a polyp to develop into cancer. In my case, it was less than that. Obviously, it took 3 years, and here we are at stage 3. So that raised all kinds of questions for me. So it was basically immediately into surgery since I was already prepped for me. After that, I did 6 months of chemo. And then, of course, that continued on with all kinds of follow-up tests and so forth. And one of the tests that was done immediately was I had some blood drawn for a genetic test. And the genetic test revealed that I had a mutation of Lynch syndrome. Turns out my siblings, some of my siblings also had the same mutations. Had some sisters that had issues with endometriosis and some other productive organ issues as well. So after my experience, I also lost a young brother. He was in his early 30s as well, to colon and to stomach cancer. So all of that experience has led me actually into being an advocate for colon cancer, particularly the indigenous groups. So I do a lot of work, well, not a lot of work, but I do some awareness here in Las Vegas at the Las Vegas sign. I also like to also attend the Gathering of Nations with the information booth there as well. So that's kind of my short story. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. We really appreciate you being here and sharing your story and experience with us. And it's the significance of raising awareness. Thank you. Next up, do we want to go to maybe Nicole?
Sure. So I can say a few things about my own cancer journey, but I would also want to emphasize 3 things in particular. I think that I would love for people to walk away from this seminar sort of thinking about. So these talk about myself, and then the 3 things that I hope to leave people with. So I like to joke that that my cat found my breast cancer, which is kind of true. I'm a bit of a voluptuous woman, and so there's plenty of surface area that my cats loved to just cuddle on. But when I got my two kitties, they were brother and sister, and the boy cat in particular really liked to just sort of lay right here on my shoulder. And, you know, as little kittens do, they kind of push their little paws into you. Well, there was one spot in particular, this little boy cat just would not leave alone. And it took about a week for me to realize he keeps pushing on the same spot. What is going on here? And so I moved my little kitty and went in with my own self-exam and realized that there was a lump that he literally had found and had been playing with. It was like there was a mouse in my blouse, and he was working really hard to get my attention that there was something there that probably didn't belong. So I give my kitty full credit for raising the initial red flags around my breast cancer. And I was very fortunate. It was at an early stage, although it had grown somewhat aggressively. It was fairly large. Through 2 lumpectomy surgeries, we were able to take out the tumor itself and get really good clean margins, take out a few lymph nodes and do the necessary testing. And I, you know, had a great team that came together and kept me advised from the oncology side, the radiology side, the surgical side. And so was very fortunate in that sense. It was about 12 years later, actually, that the ovarian cancer really began to make itself known. And my cat was still with me and still loved to spend plenty of time on my lap, but I must not have been picking up his cues this time. This one was found with a scan. And again, you know, went through surgery and chemo treatment, and I'm now on this side with no evidence of disease. And I was fortunate to have a good team and to follow the, you know, the protocols that I needed to. Having gone through this experience twice, Melissa, you're absolutely right. I feel like I, you know, could give a masterclass just on how do you navigate those first overwhelming feelings of getting the news? How do you manage just the administrative mountain that comes with, you know, having to deal with an illness like this? But the 3 things that I really wanted to emphasize with folks today are to listen to your body. Don't make excuses about getting to the doctor, and make good use of all of your medicine. And what I mean is this. So we're very fortunate living as Indigenous people. We come from a value system that tells us to pay attention to our physical health. Keep balance in your mind, in your body, and in your spirit. And when you spend a little more time cueing into what's happening in your body, you know, you likely feel something emerging that you just, you know, is not right. This just doesn't feel right. And when you're listening to your body and then you become an advocate for your body, you can tell those around you, whether it's family or your own caregivers, your physicians, something's not right here. And don't be afraid to be a very fierce advocate for yourself. If something isn't found, you know, the first time through, but you still feel the same way, get back in there and say, this doesn't feel right. This is what's wrong. This is what I'm experiencing that's different. Listen to your body and then be your body's storyteller. Tell the world what's happening with your body so that you can get the care that you need. The second point, don't make excuses. This does come a little bit into what Butch and Roy and John have talked about, and that is that sense of feeling like you're giving your body over to something that is intrusive. When you go for your exams, when you get your screenings, when you finally ask for somebody to start looking into what is wrong. We've also, I think, have a tendency when it comes to Western medicine, maybe to tell ourselves, well, maybe if I lose those 10 pounds, I'm just, you know I haven't been taking perfect care of myself. Maybe if I slim down a little before I go see the doctor. Don't put those excuses in front of yourself. Go see somebody. If you're feeling something, you need to tell somebody. So don't make, don't let yourself be challenged by those beliefs that might keep you from having somebody help you. And then the third one, use all your medicines. Again, we're so fortunate as Indigenous people to have cultures that have our own medicines for a lot of the things that we experience, for headaches or body rashes, or if your joints don't feel well. We have our traditional medicines for that. But we now have, you know, a whole wide world of Western medicines, Eastern medicines. Use all your medicines. When Butch talked about how things get treated now with lasers, when tissue is frozen and sliced super thinly so that different protocols can be tested to see which one the cancer responds best to, there are so many options for treatment. Open your mind up to them all. So listen to your body, use all of your medicines, get yourself to go see somebody if you're feeling wrong. And I hope that may make a difference.
Thank you for that, Nicole. I wrote those down, and I think that's such good advice for all of us, right? Even when we think we have a little cold, we're like, it'll go away. So thank you for sharing that. And again, just for both of your stories, and for Nicole, what you've gone through, not once, but twice. Definitely here to honor you and your body and your cat. So thank you to your cat. And Roy, please share your story with us. And again, happy to be here with you and sharing this space.
Yes, thank you. I'm honored also to be on the panel with John, and I'm having a senior moment here, and it doesn't have anything to do with colonoscopies. But anyway, there was no history of colon cancer, any kind of other cancers on both sides of my family. I take that back. I did have one maternal aunt who passed away from breast cancer. But there were a lot of type 2 diabetes and heart disease. So I pretty much throughout my 20s and 30s and 40s, you know, just lived the lifestyle that I was comfortable with. I ate whatever I wanted to. I didn't exercise probably as much as I should. A lot of stress from my employment. But I always have tried to see the doctor on an annual basis, and they would always tell me all of these screenings and immunizations that I was supposed to have. And finally, when I hit that magic big 5-0, they were telling me, okay, the American Cancer Society says everyone should be screened using colonoscopy. And I didn't know too much about it. I just heard, you know, like comedians on TV talking about it, joking about it, how it was an unpleasant experience. But I thought, well, I'm on this path where I need to really take advantage of whatever technology is available, in addition to trying to make lifestyle changes for myself. And then, as Nicole has said, also the other medicine that's available, both Western and even Eastern. I'm learning more about that as well. So the traditional, you know, native medicine that is available to us with healers. So I don't exclude anything. And so that's why I made the decision to go ahead and to have a colonoscopy done. That was 14 years ago. And they did find 1 or 2 small polyps. And I think because I had a positive report, they were able to take them out with the device, the snare. Maybe I thought I was bulletproof, and or maybe polyp proof, or I don't know. And I kind of let it go. And I knew I was supposed to come back in 10 years, and I didn't. My son was graduating from college. There was a lot going on with my family and I. And so I let it go a little too long, maybe 4 years past that. So that's why I say it's been about 15 years. And finally, I was able to get in to see a colorectal clinic at the University of Minnesota, the Fairview Health Services there. I'm actually a patient at the Urban Indian Health Board here in Minneapolis, and they do a good job in trying to direct us in all of this, preventive medicine. But I had gone to the University of Minnesota because that's where I had my first colonoscopy. And this time around, and Butch was talking about the invasiveness, and the doctor who was doing my procedure was female, was a woman, And so, there you are, you have to be in a gown and, they insert the device, and it's all on TV as well. And they gave me a small relaxant. And so they're talking with me and they're showing me what needs to be taken out. And she was quite frustrated because there had been a larger growth, this adenoma. The problem was that it was growing into my appendix as well. And it was happening at a part of the colon called the cecum, which is actually the turn from I think it's the large intestine, so down into the rectum. And she just could not retract it or retrieve it. I actually called in the expert on call there, a young man, a doctor, and he couldn't do it as either. So you can imagine, I'm laying there totally exposed, and this doctor says to me, we're going to have to refer you to surgery because we just cannot get this out. And then I started getting the information about colon cancer, and it was really a wake-up call for me, because then I started thinking, well, what if they find something? How's that going to change, my life? And I'm too young, so to be thinking in terms of mortality. Anyway, we had difficulty getting in for the surgery. It was laparoscopic surgery, so they didn't have open surgery. It was not as bad as it could have been, but it was a challenge to come back from that. It's even now I'm just taking a few months off just to recuperate, and but I was taken well care of throughout the whole procedure, and they were able to take out the cecum and which is a small portion of the colon, and my appendix. So I guess I kind of got a bonus there. I never had any problems with appendicitis, but that was all taken care of. And then the report back was that there was no sign of what they call dysplasia, or this, even though it was considered precancerous, no connection to, like I say, even the first stage of colon cancer. And beyond that, the margins look good. So that's the areas around the growth. And then as they attach to the colon, the only big difference is that now I'm going to have to go back in the fall and have another colonoscopy because of this particular growth. I'm considered at risk now. And then I guess the timetable has been accelerated. So I will be going back for more frequent colonoscopies. So every 2 years, and then 5 years will be a milestone when they can tell me that I'm probably not at as high a risk as I am now. So it's eye-opening, and but like I said earlier, it's a preventive journey, and I would encourage anyone, both male and female, that this is a procedure. I know a lot of people may not have health care. I'm fortunate to have private health care, and all of these wonderful clinics and doctors, and to take advantage of that. And so don't let that put you off, because this is a life-saving procedure. And if it can give you a few more years or improve the quality of your life, like John, I wasn't symptomatic. There was nothing that anybody could tell me was wrong. I didn't feel bad, I guess. So don't wait until that happens, and then it may be too late. So that's my story, and I would just encourage everybody to take advantage of everything that's possible and learn from my story in particular.
Thank you again very much for sharing that perspective, that story, that experience. I feel like when we come together like this, that's how we learn, and we go through this process together of, not just showing up and supporting each other, but the kind of that healing journey as well. So thank you for sharing that with us. The next question that we have, we're really interested in hearing from some of our audience and, people tuning in on Facebook as well. So feel free to respond to this question in the chat if you'd like. But, today is the kickoff for our Celebrate Indigenous Life. And so what we're interested in knowing is, what are you celebrating today? Why is this an important topic to you? And I know some of our hosts have talked about, their experience, but maybe what is it that you're celebrating and why did you choose to participate? I'll give you a moment to think about that, and I can start and share some about why I do the work that I do, and invested in this work. I think growing up, a lot of my family had a lot of different health issues, and there's so many grandparents and aunties and uncles, cousins of mine that have had different types of cancer. Someone very specifically was my Auntie Helen, and she passed away a few years ago, and going through that experience, really, I made a commitment to my family and my community to at some point go back and, help address the burden of cancer in our Native communities. Since then, there have been so many others. My grandma Opal was one person that has had a significant influence on my life. She helped to raise me. And part of the reason that I also do this, this work is because she's a cancer survivor as well. And so, I really don't even think of this as, a job, or I feel like this is so much bigger than that. And I want to give so much back to my community that has supported me and guided me through everything else. And so, I do this work for that family and that community.
By any chance, is your grandmother Opal on our chat today? I was going to call out Opal Stars for being an 84-year-old survivor, which I think is just tremendous. That's wonderful.
And so also then, if any of the hosts or any of the panelists want to share why they're celebrating today.
Any of them. I see the little caption came across there about Opal. I call her Auntie Opal. Twins, I would say Auntie in our Lakota language. But she's quite an inspiration for her long age. Here a couple of years ago, we celebrated her birthday 3 times in 1 year due to winter storms and blizzards and what have you. And eventually, we had her 3rd birthday about 4 months later after her original birthday. Then at the powwow, we mentioned it again too, another couple months. So she had about 4 birthdays that 1 year. But she's a survivor. She's a survivor. She's the kind of person that she's when she became ill and the cancer was discovered, there was like the whole family, the clan, and all of us that recognized her as a relative in some way. We were all concerned. And in our indigenous ways, there's something we call wochekye, prayer. And we always use that with faith in our heart. And when something happens to somebody, we all pray. And now you see Facebook, and somebody has a slight problem, they ask for prayers. And in no time, there's a whole conglomeration of prayer just come and surround that issue. It's just really something to see. And if you actually use your faith, you can feel that. You can feel that when they come to you in prayer. One analogy I always use in prayer is something I heard a long time ago. An elderly was going to pray. They said, you take 1 arrow. He said, you could take 1 arrow, it's easy to break it. You can break it in half. You take a bundle of arrows and tie them up. You try to break it, you'll never break it. And that's how I look at prayers. Everybody's prayer. If everybody prays the same prayer with faith, that prayer is going to be strong. It's going to be a loud voice when it gets to our grandfathers, to the creator of all, to God. He'll hear that prayer will be that much stronger. So like cancer here, it's like as I said, it's not the final word anymore. There's modern medicine, also faith, and also the traditional medicine that can be used. An elder told me once, We have a cure for every disease on grandmother Earth, but nobody has asked in the proper way to use that medicine, that resource. Excuse me. But in our indigenous ways, there is a great amount of faith it takes to make sure that medicine works as it's supposed to. You can't just go and you can't just go and pick an herb, a root or something and give it to a person. Here, take this, you'll be healed. It takes a faithful person, one that's able to navigate to that one resource, that plant, that root, that leaf, one that's qualified to do that, can do it, and then bless it in a way. There's protocol to follow and all that. Then that plant or root, whatever he gathered, will have the power that is supposed to have, the natural power. But so that's a big misunderstanding now. So there's a cure for every disease, but we don't have enough qualified people to harvest those natural cures. And so when that happens, when that person is available and that happens, there will be a cure. Years ago, another elder told me there's a cure for AIDS. There's a cure for that too, but there's nobody qualified to harvest that cure. So that's an example of how it is in our way of life. And so there's a lot of people think you can go out and like I see now on Facebook, people are picking up dandelions and eating them. But if they don't have that faith in their heart and they're not qualified to do that, to achieve the curing purposes of eating dandelion. So that's an example. And in the early teachings in all of our tribes, when all these resources, all these ways were given to us to use in a faithful, trustworthy, honest way, and then they will work for what they're used for. If you misuse them, if you abuse them, then it will come back around on you, or it will harm those that you are trying to help. So that's the common people's way of looking at these things. But as far as advice for anybody, again, I appreciate what Roy said again. Get checked often, and Nicole too. Go in and take advantage of the IHS medical system. Go in and get a checkup, every 6 months, 3 months, 1 year, whatever it takes. Do it, stay ahead of things. Stay ahead of things. Colonoscopy been mentioned. I've gone through that too. I've had some of my friends laugh at me. Why'd you do that? Well, I'm trying to stay alive. It's because I have a lot to do. I want to do a lot of things yet. So, it's one way to look at it. If there's resources there to use that way, well, then take advantage of it. So that's my bit. Now I'll turn it over to John again. Thank you, Wyatt.
John, Roy, you want to share why you're celebrating?
Oh, by the way, I got rid of the cat, so he's not meowing around anymore. And my little 2-year-old granddaughter came in and said hi, and she went out the door, started crying because she wanted to sit on my lap. But I excuse myself for that. Okay, I apologize. Okay.
Was the question to me? I'm sorry. Okay. Reason to celebrate today was the question, right? Yeah, I think it's definitely fortunate for me in my experience that it took the passing away of siblings in order to at least basically save my life. So with that, through those years, I've got 4 grandchildren now, which I just really adore them. I got 2 beautiful daughters and a wonderful son-in-law. And so every day I'm just thankful for them. I just all of my the testing that I continue to do every year. I get a colonoscopy every year as a minimum. All the blood tests, everything else that goes along with that, scans, you name it. I don't like doing them, but there's a lot that I'm thankful for, and that gives me the drive and to do what I do as far as getting tested, getting screened, and so forth. So today is definitely a celebration for that.
Thank you, Johnny. Roy, what are you celebrating today?
I was sharing with Misha, getting ready, prepping for this, that when I got the invitation, I wanted to do it. I knew it was important, but it was so close to my birthday, which is tomorrow. And so I'm going to be celebrating that. And we're now coming out of some of these COVID restrictions, so we're going to be able to do that with family. And so I'm just thankful that, I was able to take advantage of these resources, and that the doctors and the community and my family have helped get me back on a healthy path here. And we just have to wait and see. But I'm really thankful for that I've got another year and another. I was looking at something like 2 billion seconds since I was born, and in dog years, the breed that we have, something like 187 years. That's what I am tomorrow. So I'm thankful for that.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. Happy early birthday, Roy. And what a blessing for you to share your story and for us to be able to celebrate. So we celebrate your birthday from where we're all joining you from. I was thinking like, oh, well, I know what I'm celebrating and how do I put it in words so I don't get emotional. And I think about where I am and the things that I get to do, like Wyatt said, it's not a job, right? Because I get to conversate with all of you. My kids are in the other room. Like, I do this for them. I do this for my dad, who, will do a monthly chemo shot until he decides he no longer wants to do it. And my mom, who I lost 9 years ago to cancer when my son was born. So we think about those moments in the work we do. And I'm so thankful for our staff, our partners, our board, who go above and beyond to join us in these type of opportunities and to help raise that awareness. I think about all of our partners at the tribal and our urban Indian health programs. They're just as important as we are as the work we do here at AICAF, and that they share that message for us. So I'm just celebrating all of you on this call, my family, my friends, and my kiddos. And I'm just, again, thankful to be here celebrating with all of you as we, start this month in AICAF, really raising the awareness on the importance of cancer screenings and celebrating our survivors and lifting up their stories across Indian country. I know we are at 6:01, so I just want to double check. We do have one more question. We could also, we have our ending prayer. So I just want to check with all of you, John, Roy, Nicole, and Butch, where you are with time, if you have a few minutes, about 5-10 more minutes.
6:01.
Awesome. Okay.
6:01 on my computer. Yeah, I got that. No.
Got 9 more minutes. I'll give us 9 more
Yeah,
minutes.
I'm always listening to my wife over here.
Do you want me?
Yeah.
Number 5.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question is, how does your connection to your tribe and your ancestors inspire your journey?
We'll time you 1 minute. You got to say it fast. I'm just kidding. Again, I love that question. I think, we are Native people and we come from amazing teachings, amazing stories, amazing ancestors who have been through so much to put us where we are. So we really, again, this question is for our audience as well, to share with us how your connection to your tribe and your ancestors inspire your journey.
I'll go ahead. It's such an incredible connection that we have to our ancestors, and in my Tlingit language we have a phrase, Hashagun, which means the connection of the past, present, and future. And so that gives such a strong sense of being connected, not only to those who went before me, but of being connected to those who are going to come after me. And so what can I do to both honor my ancestors and to help provide the best possible path for my descendants? So when it comes to a cancer journey, just knowing the resilience of our people and what trauma and challenges we as Native peoples have moved through before, I mean, that gives me strength individually, just to think I come from such incredible ancestors who faced so many things and are now thriving and living well in our modern world, continuing to build our healthy communities and people. So just being able to dip into that knowledge and resilience of not feeling alone in this journey. And that's one of the things in celebrating survivorship. We're telling our stories and we're letting other people know this can be your experience too. 20 years ago, this kind of a network didn't exist. It was so isolating and you felt so all alone, not necessarily being able to connect with other people who'd gone, through what you're about to experience. So yeah, our connection to ancestors gives me strength, and I hope that our stories give that strength in turn to others.
Yes.
I'll just go ahead and say that, I come from, on both sides of my family, both my mom and my dad, people who were displaced from their traditional homelands. So the Pawnee were originally in Nebraska and were removed to Indian Territory, and the Choctaw, my mother's people, were originally in what's now called Mississippi. And so they were also removed to Indian Territory. And I think about that and what that took to be able to make that choice, and the journey itself, and taking the time and hearing the stories from my mom and dad in the past about my ancestors, all the relatives, and the way we're all connected in these tribes. So the Choctaws in Oklahoma to the Choctaws in Mississippi, and the four bands of the Pawnee. And sometimes we don't always get along, but we're still connected. And so I always tell my children that, I haven't earned the right to give up. I haven't earned that choice to say, oh, this is too hard. So all the way back to, when I was trying to graduate from high school and college. And I always try and tell them that as an example, because if my ancestors had said that, I wouldn't be here today. And so this is, as Nicole is saying, it's an ongoing story. So everybody who came before me, and then my generation, and then everybody who will come after me, my descendants. And that gives me not only a lot of pride, but a lot of encouragement and a lot of understanding in a larger context. It isn't just my life in singularity. It's all related, and to everybody on this panel, and to everybody here on Turtle Island, as well, as we always find out when we hear about the earliest migrations, supposedly, even though a lot of us may believe simultaneously that we were put here by the Creator. So that they give me a lot of hope, those ancestors and relatives.
Johnny, do you want to share anything with us?
Well, I'm not as fortunate as the other panelists, as far as growing up in traditions. My parents, my biological parents, both of them being Navajo, were divorced when I was really young. So I was raised off the reservation. My mom remarried a non-native. And so I don't really know a whole lot, unfortunately, of my ancestral side, I guess I can say. Here recently, I've been wanting to learn more about it and been in contact with a few aunts and things. But yeah, it's definitely something that I want to do. But going to work on it. Thank you.
Keep at it, John. There's
Yep.
a little bit of a question a quest you have. You'll get it, so don't forget now. Mama's blood flows through your veins, so don't ever forget that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's our ancestry. As far as me saying something about my ancestry is my dad was a full-blood Lakota. And my mom was part French. She was 1/4 French. She had a grandfather that was a French trader. La Pointe, his name was. So it comes out that I'm only 7/8 Lakota. So I do say parlez-vous Francois every now and then, but that's my 1/8 that comes out. And so when I say we in French, but I say Lakota to we. So, but as ancestry is important to us. We always need to remember our ancestors. When we do things, we always mention them. We say a prayer for them. Thank you for teaching us what we know today. Keep on teaching us more. Guide us in our walk on Grandmother Earth. Guide us in our thoughts and our actions. And sometimes it feels like you have a little a grandmother, grandfather sitting on your shoulder on both sides, guiding everything you do. If you walk that way, then you'll walk the right way that they wanted you to. If you use that in your own imagination, part of a personal philosophy kind of a thing. But as far as ancestry is really strong, if you look at it in our common people's ways. Look at it, it's strong, it's there. That's why I say, Don, that remember what your mom taught you some things, and once every now and then you're gonna have a reminder from her. So you'll find that way too. But as for my experience is my father's grandfather was great-grandfather was Bear Looks Back. He was one of the signers of the 1868 treaty in Fort Laramie, Wyoming. And in 2018, I was honored to be a moderator for the 150th year commemoration of that treaty. And all of the Sioux tribes, Arapaho tribes, others that were affected by that treaty were there, gathered there in this huge gathering there of our people of the 1868 treaty. And we talked about all those things. So, but what came out for me is I have a copy of a treaty book that was given to me by an old member of the Treaty Council of the Sichago Lakota Oyate. And he gave that to me one time in 1985. He said in Indian, Leyu Hayo Oganashna Ilagyayo. That means Leyu Hayo means take this and have this. Oganashna Ilagyayo, utilize it every now and then. So I have a book of all these treaties. So I always read the treaties that affect us as the Rosebud Sioux tribe, as the Lakotas. And so when we went, I remember that. I prayed with that. And I prayed before the night of the meeting. I said, guide my words, guide my thought when we gather with all these people. And it was awesome getting up there and you see all the chiefs, the leader, tribal chairmen of all these tribes that are affected were all lined up to say something. And I felt very humble and very small at that time to be standing there just as a voice and to open the door for them to say what they had to say. And it was awesome experience. And then we went the whole day, a couple of days like that. On the second day, we were almost finished. I have a staff that I call in name of my great-great-grandfather, Bear Looks Back, that was made for me. I took that staff and we were able to go over to across the creek, east of the fort, for the original negotiation proceeding grounds were. There's 2 sites, and the second site is where they had the actual signing of the treaty, where some of our grandfathers, all they did was put a mark on that treaty. So I went there, and they had 3 teepees erected there, the National Park Service. They erected 3 teepees there, and they had a little fencing around it. And so the park ranger that took me he dropped me off at the main gate about a block and a half away from where the teepees were. But I took my staff and I walked over there. And as I was going under the wire or the rope that was around, I had tobacco in my hand and my staff. And I prayed, I'm going to come into a sacred place, a place where our grandfathers sat on this sand burr-filled ground and negotiated for proceedings and other things for our people 7 generations ahead. So please excuse me for taking the liberty to walk on this land. That's how I prayed. And I went around one teepee, and then to the next teepee. I was going around the 3rd one to the north, and I heard somebody whistle real loud. So I stopped, I turned, I looked, there was nobody behind me. And the park ranger had went back towards the fort. So I stuck my staff to the ground. And again, I prayed. I said, excuse me for being here. Whoever you are, thank you for acknowledging me. Then I went on to the next teepee and put my staff on again, and I prayed. I said, Grandfather, God, Creator, thank you for allowing me to stand here or where my grandfathers all stood where they sat here and negotiated terms and provision for our people for generations ahead, how they negotiated them. And I stood there and I thought to myself, how could our ancestors who did not know how to understand English, who did not know how to write anything in English, who did not understand all the terms that the agents and translators were using. And all of this was being translated by people, translators, who only learned bits and pieces of our language in their way. And how was our ancestors able to assume the whole content of that translation and then demand terms for us, the hunting rights, fishing rights, provisions, something in return for all the resources to be taken from our land and the protection of them, all that. How were our ancestors able to convey that thought to these translators? And how were the translators able to convey these things to the government agents? And it's an awesome thought to think how that all transpired and how that treaty still stands as the law of the land. And one of the provisions is health care for the people, health care for the future generations. And I thought about how humble our leaders were when they thought those things and they got those provisions in the treaties. And so that came to me, and I turned and walked back toward the gate, and the ranger must have seen me because he came back to pick me up again. So that was an awesome experience I had of being there. The first day we went, we had a ceremony, a prayer circle. And the keeper of our sacred pipe and bundle, Arvo, looking for us, was there. He made a circle and he did his pipe ceremony in the center. And as I stood there with my staff, as I stood there and I stand, as the prayers were going, I could feel heat coming up to the bottoms of my feet, my shoes, on up my leg, up to my knees. And by the time the ceremony, the prayer was over, my thighs were felt like they were being burnt up. And it was scary. I was absorbing all those feelings of our grandfathers when they were there negotiating these proceedings of the treaty. That's the thought that came to me on my personal level. So again, I offered a prayer of gratitude for giving me that. And it gave me a fuller understanding of it. It gave me a better understanding of what our grandfathers went through so we could be who we are now. And like now we're advocating here, we're visualizing a cure for cancer and assistance and encouragement for survivors and victims. So that's that's how I see my ancestry. I appreciate what my grandfathers did all those years ago. That was the 150th year commemoration of the 1868 treaty. And there's other notes that were spiritual in a way. And if I'm to tell them to a non-Indian, they would say, oh, that was just a coincidence. What a coincidence. But to me, because I thought about our grandfathers and ancestry, the thought, it all centered itself to me what it meant. I thought the objective of it. So that's how we remember our ancestries. And in every time we do something every day, every time we say something, or all the virtues that have guided our way of life, these were all taught to our parents. So they taught them to us. And they learned them from their parents. They learned them from their parents. So that's the ancestry trail of the virtues of how to live your life. And so it goes on and on. And we of this generation need to do the same. And we're doing this through modern day technology with this video, this movie, what's being done here. And I really appreciate what our people are doing, all of you that are involved in this celebration of life. And we celebrate life that our ancestry provided for us in their own common people's way. And we pray, I said, prayer of gratitude each and every day for that. So I thank you all for allowing me to be here. I always say, I'm a common man, I'm nobody. So I appreciate everything that comes my way. We live for each and every day. So thank you very much. Wo pila tanka.
Thank you so much, Butch. Again, I feel like you always have the right words to say. And growing up, I've always looked up to you and appreciate everything that you've done for our community and our Native people. So thank you for being here today, sharing your thoughts and words. Thank you to the panelists. As we close this event, we recognize that we're celebrating our relatives, and that while this is our initial event for the month, there's still so much to come for rest of the month and beyond, because it's not just about a day or a month, but really celebrating that life.
So again, I want to thank all of you for joining, Wyatt for joining last minute, Roy, John, Nicole, Butch, for all of your words, for those behind the scenes. And again, just to our staff for everything they have done to plan this amazing month and to help spread that awareness. So thank you all for joining us today. So thankful to have heard all of your stories and to celebrate with all of you today. We look forward to celebrating Indigenous life with all of you throughout the month of June and beyond. Wopilatanka, Kitabi. I hope you all have a beautiful night.
Oh, that's it.
Chief.
We'll see you, John, Nicole, Roy, Wyatt, Melissa. Yeah.
Doksha.